Welcome. We're glad you're joining us today to hear about getting rid of your stuff, solutions, and strategies. One of our Seniors Living Smarter seminars. I want to briefly say thank you to those of you thank you for your patience and flexibility, to those who are expecting to hear this live and have a time to interact with our panelists. Of course, that's what we like to do, but there were so many uncertainties about the weather. This seemed the best way to proceed. So we appreciate your flexibility, but we've got a great panel who will be sharing with you today. So we wanted to get going quickly about that. For those of you who I've not met or do not know me, I'm Virginia Lazenby, founder and host of the Seniors Living Smarter seminars. Seminars have been going. We're starting our 10th year. Not quite the start we had expected, but you go with what needs to work. So this is what we'll be doing. Seniors Living Smarter seminars are intended to educate, equip, inspire seniors to make informed choices, empower decisions. We're all about providing information, and I appreciate the people who are listening to this because that tells us you're wanting to learn. Now, we all wish there were just that little magic wand to wave and we'd get rid of all the stuff, but somehow I haven't found that wand yet. Next best way is to be informed. And so that's what we will be doing today. For our attendees, I am sure there are people here in different parts of the journey. Some of you who are attending today or listening today are really planning for the future. Well, I know I'm going to be downsizing in a few years, so I want to be prepared. And that's great. Others of you may be in a situation where downsizing is very imminent. You are moving. It may have been something you've planned for, or as we often know, that there could be challenges, health challenges that may cause us to need to make a change more quickly than we had expected. So we're here to share resources with you and how to help put things together to do it in the best way to make it reduce the stress is what we're really wanting to help you accomplish. And some of you may be here because getting rid of the stuff has fallen to you. And maybe your loved one is in a situation where they cannot be making these decisions and you have perhaps a house full of stuff or just a few things to deal with, but hopefully you'll get solution strategies that will help you today. So that's what we will be about. I want to have our panelists, as we often have on our seminars, panels of panelists, professionals representing different areas of this downsizing, getting rid of the stuff part. And today we're really focusing on more the mechanics of it. We've had other seminars that talked more about the emotional part, the letting go. That will come up today too. But we're looking more, as we say, at solutions and strategies. So I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Patricia from the Assistance League of Georgetown. Give us a little bit of brief information about the Assistance League of Georgetown.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Virginia, for having me on today. My name is Patricia. I'm the Vice President of Thrift Store at the Assistance League of Georgetown. We have a small thrift store in the Georgetown area. And our elevator speech, as you like to call it, we are the champions of self-esteem among children and families in need since 2001. And how do we do that? Through our many philanthropic programs to include Operation School Bell, Reading and More, Assist a Teacher, scholarships, and community outreach. So we are here we're all about helping our community.
And I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to hear from our other person representing the donations area, Rita Turner from the Caring Place.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here today. I'm Rita from the Caring Place, and we help people in financial crisis. So we help with rent, utilities. We have a large feeding program, a food pantry, fresh food for family. And then we also have a large thrift store that our families in crisis can come in and get items for free that they need, clothing, shoes, couches, kitchen tables. But then also we sell items to the community as a whole, and so that helps fund our programs of the rent and utilities.
I think the interesting part about both of these, and there are others, is as we look at getting rid of our stuff, is that letting go, what's going to be the next step for it? And that's something that we'll be dealing with today. And so an important part about the donation sites is knowing how your donations are going to impact more than just you getting rid of the stuff, but what benefits, who benefits from that? So as Rita just described, the Caring Place offers a lot of programs in Georgetown, financial related programs and so on. Patricia mentioned briefly they're servicing school-age children in the surrounding communities. So you're really contributing to others. So we appreciate having you. We'll learn more about their work in just a minute. Let's go to our other panelist who's with us today, Holly Bruns, representing estate sales and liquidation.
Hey, all. Good morning. Also, thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be a part of talking to the community about all of these different topics to make things go smoother for everybody. We own and operate Relic Road Estate Sales and Liquidations, and our primary goal is to be sincerely serving the community with our professional, burden-free process and services by respectfully rehoming or creating respectful rehoming solutions. So what we want to do is make this a burden-free process for you and be able to help customize solutions to meet your unique needs, to alleviate stress alongside associating, with decluttering and downsizing. But mainly what we're going to be about is whole estate liquidations, and then down dealing with your contents, trying to be on a profitable side for you so it can help cover some other costs of what you're going through.
Okay, we'll learn more about that. I liked the term she respectfully rehoming. What is the best use of the items? And you're going to hear some good examples in a while of that. Some of us get locked into these linen and lace tablecloths. What's going to happen? Well, we've got some some discussion points about, people are creative, and a lot of these things that we're limited in thinking about what they can be used for and who wants to use those. Oh, there are ways, and we're going to be hearing about that in just a minute. So I want us to move on in. I've got some general questions for our panelists that will, I think, give all of us some information about getting rid of the stuff. What do you see as the top things that seniors should consider before deciding how to get rid of their belongings? Now, that's kind of a multifaceted question there, but we've got a great group of professionals here, knowing that every situation is different. But let's see what we come up with. Patricia, what do you think are top things seniors should consider as they're thinking about getting rid of their stuff?
So if they're thinking about donating items to either our thrift store, to any thrift store in the community, I really think that they need to look ahead, plan ahead, and go to the website or to call the shop and to determine what items we actually accept and what we don't accept. This is going to save them some time, because if they get there, for example, we ask that our customers call ahead if they have furniture donations. We have limited space, so we can't always accept furniture. So if someone shows up with a big piece of furniture and we have to turn them away, they're going to be upset. So I really recommend that our customers really prepare ahead of time by finding out what is accepted and what is not accepted.
An outstanding point, which also brings up the point, well, my neighbor said this, my friend said that,
Yeah.
No, go to the person, go to the
Exactly.
organization. Different times, I would think you might be accepting different things,
Yes.
perhaps.
Yep.
or what we see as the value in these just priceless items we have may not, they may be interpreted in different ways. So, but so this is good because I know of people who say, well, I went over there or to any place and they wouldn't take it. Well, plan, like you said, plan ahead.
Plan ahead.
And that's a great lead into Rita, because yes, we have 2 different donation places here. And like we say, there are plenty others. They all have their own niches. So Rita, what do you say about the things they should consider before dropping their stuff off, or how do they plan?
So, on our website, it does say what we take and what we don't accept. And we can only take gently used items just because, when we have to pay a large trash bill for items that are broken or unable, that are in too bad a shape to go out on our floor, then it takes away from the programs of helping families. So I would suggest going on first, see what we take, but then also look at our donation hours. We do send out a truck that will pick up large furniture. For smaller items of donations, our donation hours right now are a little different because we're adding 5,000 square feet, so we're under construction. But then also, I've been here 17 years, and so I would also suggest making sure you don't donate anything that a family member wants. Because we have gotten calls throughout the year saying, oh my God, my mom donated my deceased dad's, this item or that item. And we try to find the item if we can, but we have a large amount of stuff that comes in and out every day. So that would be my suggestion.
That
Making
is
sure
a good
families
point.
vote first.
And that's going to come up in other items. And I know that's going to come up with Holly's work. It's, you make the decision, and when it's time to let it go, let it go. And we'll talk more about that. So there are good points being raised there as well. Holly, what are your top recommendation for people in planning ahead?
I do think that there's maybe 2 top things that are important that I see happening, and it's considering the timeline that you're on for when you want to make these types of decisions. In the estate sale industry, it's not very conducive to decide to move in like 3 weeks and then need an estate sale right away. Typically, estate sales are booking out several months as people are preparing and finding out where they're going and having a new place to move to. And then to follow that, it's most important that you make sure that you're keeping the belongings that you want to keep that bring you the most joy, and that family members get everything that they need. We come across a lot of old photo books and family memorabilia, and we just don't want to have any mistakes once it gets to our part of selling to the community, that one of those loved items gets into somebody else's home when you meant to keep it. So considering your timeline, and then making sure that the items that you're keeping are the most joyful for your next season.
Good point there. The when we talk about how to get going, one of the most important, yeah, everything is important, but photos is always an issue that comes up. And that's something we can start on early. How do we select? This is one of the topics we offer, and we often speak about our downsizing club. It meets monthly. It's a small group, a support group for people who are looking to downsize. And we talk more specifically about things like this. And how do we go through our photos? That can be a great starting place for people. And paperwork and documents. I am amazed how many people get down. They're really ready to empty everything out, and then they still have file drawers of papers that they feel they need to go through. That stuff we need to start on sooner, and so kind of deviated from the question there. But as we look at when we started with our question, top things they should consider. So starting ahead, planning, making sure you have out separated what you want. The other thing is how to start passing these items on to our family members as soon as possible. And just a little comment here about when we often hear, oh, but nobody wants my stuff. Yeah, there's some good discussions about that, but I challenge people that some of the things they don't, if they knew what it was, why it was important, it changes someone's attitude. Well, I didn't know why that vase was so important in our family. So we encourage people to share the meaning of these items and that can help the recipient. Then and let and then when we've passed something on to family, that's not the time to go ask them. So what did you do with it? I don't see it. It's out of your house. So the next owner's responsible for it. We just kind of let it go there. Any other points that you want to raise? Any of you about the kind of the planning ahead? What should people consider?
I want to add on to Rita's point about really going through the donations beforehand. We have received boxes that have clearly been stored in a garage or in a shed, and they're covered in dirt, spider webs, and we open it up and the clothing or items are moldy. My particular organization, our volunteers are mostly elderly, and they have, decreased immune system. So we want to protect them as best as possible. So when we get those types of things, we don't know what we're going to open up. So I highly suggest that you sort through your donations first, get rid of anything. Would I wear this? Would I want to buy this? If not, throw it away. And as Rita said, it's an additional cost to us because we have to get rid of it and pay the trash fees as well.
I would also like to add, if you're gonna donate purses, please check all the pockets.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
we get cash, we get credit cards, we get social security cards, all kinds of things in purses.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. So the important point there, and I've heard over the years, the tremendous cost to you all in terms of having to get rid of trash. People, when we're donating things, it needs to be usable. If it's chipped, broken, sorry. I mean, if we can't use it, why do we expect somebody else to? And so it is usable things that need to go for our donations. Okay. So I think you've kind of touched on this question. Common mistakes people make. One is taking trash because they just didn't go through stuff, or not checking the pockets and the deep corners or in purses and so on. Any other common mistakes that you see in your work?
I would like to bring up, a lot of times we do have a large community of senior citizens, and sometimes when their spouse passes away, throughout the years, we've kind of dealt with this, that people are like, you need to clean out, you need to be moving with me, mom or dad, and they're pushed through their grief process and made to donate items before they're ready. And so I would just suggest that you grieve on your own timetable. And when you're ready to let your spouse's items go, that's when you let them go, not when your kids are or something like that. So,
I can chime in on that on behalf of Rita as well, that we see that frequently when we go to meet with folks in the Sun City and the Georgetown surrounding areas that we service. And it could be a very fresh scenario that they've just had, and a kid is there like from afar, out of state, trying to help. But the process of the grief takes time. And if you do move too fast through that, it won't have the same, effect that you think that it will. So I totally agree, Rita, that taking the time that you need to grieve before you make any decisions is completely okay. And if you're okay with not getting rid of any of your spouse's stuff for any reason, you don't have to either. Like, there's no set rule of because your spouse died, you have to clear out their half of the closet. It's all pretty much based on how you're feeling at that time and where you stand. And I encourage our clients of the senior citizens age to kind of stand back up to their kids who kind of get a little pushy in these areas. And we're here to advocate for what you're going through. And sometimes the kids are here just trying to get back to their lives that they're living. And we can see that be rushed way too quickly.
Good point. And that can really lead into discussion of knowing the resources that are available. Sometimes because the kids don't know the area, they don't know that you already have resources that can help you with this. So I know I had a fellow who called me a few weeks ago and introduced himself and said that he was a stepson of a woman whose name I recognized, had been a regular seminar attendee. And he said, there have been changes in her health. She's now in memory care. She did tell us to look in this notebook that she has a list of people that can help her. And so in this case, I was listed as the realtor and downsizing person, so we could bring in our team. So, sometimes if family knows who's there to help, that can help a lot. So making your wishes known, where you want to live, where you want to go, but here's the team that can help me. And I've had people who are very firm, I want my donations to go here. And so that's an important point. We always advocate for the seniors. But
And I wanted to add on the other side of things, when the parent or parents have moved on and it's the family that's dealing with the items, a lot of the guilt that the children feel about certain things is that, well, it would belong to my family or it belonged to my parents. I feel bad about, giving it away. I've always told them, look at it this way. What is it? Is it important to you? Is it going to bring you joy in your life? Is it going to be something you're going to use in your life? If not, it is taking up not only physical space, but emotional space. So if that's going to be the issue, then it's better to move it on to someone that can appreciate it, either by donating it, by gifting it to a family member or friend, whatever the case may be.
we talk about that, keeping things out of obligation and absolutely freeing ourselves so that, again, the downsizing club, some of us have done this where we like write a letter to this object, kind of reflecting on why it's important. It's time to move on. Let someone else come out of the drawer of the cabinet and perhaps be used. So good point. Thanks for sharing that. And another question we've talked about, or we see a lot, is that emotional attachment. I said, we've had a seminar a few months ago where we dealt more with the letting go. So we're not dealing so much with that, but I would just, from our panelists today, any things you've seen, Patricia started us off with that being realistic, is it a positive, or if it's a downer to us, how do we move that on? Anyone else want to add other things about helping people feel emotionally attached to things, how we can help them feel okay and letting go?
I think if I could say a little bit about it, is just to really remember and be thankful for how long you've had these items and you've gotten to enjoy them. And they've served such a great purpose in the home that you're in now. But now you have to go to a new season. So it's not a loss, it's an opportunity to let someone else also continue to enjoy what you so enjoyed. If you can't fit it in your new place, or if family doesn't want it, it's not a waste. Between the community that we serve, through donating or through sales, like whichever it is, somebody else is really in need of those items, and your ability to detach from them. And these aren't the items that bring you the most joy. These are the items that are just, your belongings that can be hard to let go of, because at this time of transition, it's different than all of the transitions you've probably made. Typically, when you make a move, you take everything with you. In this kind of season, you might be considering that it's time to consider it. It can't all go with you. So finding the best outlets and knowing in your heart then that you used it and loved it. And then now it's going to go get to be, like we say, respectfully rehomed through these various different ways to the next person. That's the giving side that we can focus more on, instead of the the grieving of the items. You know, it's where our treasure is, there our heart is also. And the treasures in our lives are our family and our friends, and, you know, having more of a stress-free life to enjoy more things. And so trying to kind of change the perspective and match the goal, I think is just really important to consider.
I have one suggestion, because I know sometimes people are very attached to their items. Out of personal experience, when I had to downsize my mom and dad, not many people, younger people want China now. And it was heartbreaking to my parents to know that none of us wanted the China. And but my niece came in and she made little bird feeders out of mom's the cups and the saucers. And then she gave a bird feeder to all of us. And all of us enjoyed the bird feeders. And then with my mother's wedding dress, for one, none of us are even closely going to fit into that dress. And so my niece came in and got the dress and took the lace from the dress, put my parents' wedding picture in, and put a border. And so it's given out to all of us kids and all the grandkids. And so it's not in the form that my parents wanted us to have it, but it's there and it reminds us of our parents. So just different ways to keep it going.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you know, the part too is as we're going through that stuff, hopefully we are enjoying in terms of a reflection on our lives. Oh, that was when I went to Camp Mystic, and that's where I learned to swim and I competed and taking time. That's the beauty for people who plan ahead. Now, situations may change and we don't have that opportunity and we ended up with boxes of stuff going wherever. But hopefully we start ahead of time and celebrate our lives. And often we've had a handout we've shared before, we shared Downsizing Club about creating our legacy. Sometimes our kids don't know our stories. Our grandkids don't know that when we were in high school, we did this or that, or I was the leader of whatever. So celebrate our lives, share that with our family, share our legacy there.
Bridget, I have one more suggestion. When downsizing and stuff, we're open Monday through Saturday for donations, and we have a drive-through area. If you just clean out one room, it doesn't have to be the whole house. You don't have to save it till the whole house is cleaned out. If you clean out one room and want to drop off 4 or 5 boxes, I mean, sometimes it just helps instead of looking at the whole picture, one room at a time, and you can bring it in and drop it off, and we unload the car for you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rita. When we talk about our own ways of processing things, for some of us, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, 3 days a week going through. Others, I'm going to do this closet. I'm going to do this chest of drawers. And then going ahead and donating along the way. I know our estate friend, Holly's going, oh, but save the stuff, we can sell it in estate sale. You know, we all have our different ways of processing and whatever is right for the individual. But that was a good point. We don't have to wait till it's all done. We can, for those of us who are going that way. When we were talking about repurposing things, Patricia shared an interesting story earlier, just in our discussions. I'm the one who still has that drawer full of linen and lace tablecloths that sitting at the bottom of my china cabinet for 25 years are not doing anybody any good. So, but I'm going, who's going to buy those? But that's somebody else's problem, not mine. But
Right.
Patricia, share with us what you shared.
So we receive a lot of beautiful handmade quilts that nobody wants, right? Like no family member wants. Well, and same with embroidered tablecloths. I mean, we don't, our society is so casual. We just don't dine in that way. We don't use China in that way. But there's a trend where a lot of makers out there will take these vintage linens and they'll turn them into clothing. They'll turn them into accessories. Like for me, for example, I bought an old quilt from our shop and I turned it into a jacket. I mean, there are other ways to enjoy these pieces, not necessarily their original purpose, but they will be able to be enjoyed for years to come in this new form. And it's going to save them from going into the landfill, you know. someone took a lot of time to make these things, this is just another way to enjoy them.
Okay. Thanks for sharing it. Let's talk a little bit, about donations right now. Can you, what items are most needed, and it may vary season to season and what's already there. But Patricia, let's start with you for Assistance League. Let's go for right now. What items are needed or most easily accepted, or what items are you saying we just really can't do that right now?
So the number one donation that we get and we sell is apparel, men's and women's apparel. I mean, that is our number one seller. It's never gonna not be in need. Shoes, accessories, those are also big sellers. Furniture and housewares are always good sellers. I mean, you've got people, college students, someone starting, newly married, they need furniture, they need housewares to, furnish their new home, whatever the case may be. This is a good way to get a lot of stuff for a little bit of money. We take jewelry, but the things that we can't take are things like large appliances, things that are like more home materials, like things that need to be wired in, lighting, that sort of thing. We can't take children's clothing, children's items. We don't sell that sort of thing. What else? For the most part, we try to take everything, but again, because of our limited space, we just don't have the room to accept large pieces. And the way people are living now, their large furniture is not very conducive to a modern lifestyle. So huge armoires, huge entertainment centers, just large pieces of furniture just aren't popular. China, crystal, silver plated serving pieces, those things just don't sell very well. They take a long time to sell. But yeah, in general, we will try to take as much as we can, and what we can't use, we pass on to another organization. So,
and that's what, as we've been planning this, there's such interesting networking going on in terms of what's the best use. Rita, what are some things you would add from the Caring Place, things you accept, don't accept?
We basically, we accept quite a lot. So we have a book department, we have an eating department. If you have something really unique, we cannot take mattresses. We can take car seats, just because of the recall notifications, we would spend all day just on recalls. So, and also it has to be gently used, like it can't be broken or things like that. But, yeah, you'd be amazed at some of the, if you follow us on Facebook, we do have a little segment where we do unique things that came into the Caring Place. So, we take a lot of stuff. If it's something, that is like collectors or something like that. Like we had someone drop off just through our regular donation area, like 5 boxes of the little trains that used to be on the train track, still in the box and stuff. Just kind of give us a heads up if that's coming in, because we want to make sure, that would be more like an eBay thing. But yeah, we take pretty much everything. There is a list online of the items, specific items that we can't take.
You mentioned, Patricia did like appliances and now, okay, Rita, do you all take some appliances or none or?
No, we refer those over to Habitat, who has
Okay.
another thrift store, which helps fund their programs too, which is really great. So just like Patty or Patricia said, if it's like a ceiling fan or things like that, we do take some medical equipment. Um, and so we have that in the back. So if you don't see it out on the floor, we do take just the walkers and things like that, or the wheelchairs. But no, for items like blinds and things, that would go to Habitat store.
One of the handouts for those of you who registered for the seminar and are viewing it through this way, in the email you received with the link to this video recording, there is the handout, What to Do with My Stuff, a local resource guide. So when you have a chance to look at that, and it does, it's hard, how exhaustive do you become? But we really tried to make comments or give resources for donations. And what made me think about that, like, is the Habitat Restore, but knowing what's available. Goodwill, of course, there are things that Goodwill can take that perhaps others don't take, knowing the different possibilities. But you'll see that in your handout. For those of you who registered, those of
Can I
you
add
who are
one
viewing
thing
this,
also?
yeah.
We can't take TVs.
Okay.
A law changed a couple of years ago, and it's actually quite costly for us to try to get rid of that TV. So,
TVs are a pain to get rid of. I'm learning. What
Oh, I
about,
wanted to add, I forgot to mention when we were creating that list. Best Buy has a recycling program for electronics. So I always tell people about Best Buy.
there you go. Absolutely. Okay. What about, and you may have mentioned CDs, DVDs. Do you all take those?
yes, we
CDs,
do.
DVDs, no VHS, no cassettes.
Okay,
But we-
you don't do the cassette, but Rita, you said you all will take,
We take the DVDs and the CDs. We don't take the VHSs.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Walk in the past there. Okay. I think that larger donation items, plan ahead, contact the organization and
Yeah, we ask that if you have a large piece of any piece of furniture, really, to call a shop. They'll take your information, contact information, and then our furniture team leader will contact you and let you know whether or not we can accept it, and then we can arrange for pickup.
okay. Is that sort of the same for you, Rita, at the Caring Place?
Our truck runs about 4 or 5 days out from when we can pick up from the time of the phone call. So they'll just, they will ask certain questions and ask what items you had to pick up, and then just schedule a pickup, and they come in and remove the item from your house.
Okay. Once again, talk to the organization. There are lots of rumors and this happened to me, that happened to me. You know, you have to do your own homework about your own situation. So we always encourage people to do that. What about for tax deductions? If people want documentation, receipts, how is that handled? Let's start with you, Rita.
We give them a blank receipt that they are responsible for filling out. So
Okay. Is that the same, Patricia, for you all?
Same. Yep. Yes.
And I think that's generally how it's handled through the industry, then between you and your CPA and however you account for that. Okay.
I just want to add one point. So a lot of people think that every time they drop off a donation, they need to get a new receipt. It's actually, you can just, if you know you're going to be doing multiple donations, one tax receipt is enough. It is a good idea to keep track of what you're donating, because if you go online, there are different lists. Like Goodwill puts out a list of how much each item is worth. So that way you can actually give a value and then turn it into your CPA or whatever for tax purposes.
Because some people want to just say, I gave 3 boxes. Well, that's pretty vague. So we need to have some idea of the content, but so that's a good point. Is a resource on the Goodwill site. And then however you work this out with your CPA and however you want to account for it, but you have to know, not to the item specific, but generally household items, clothing, whatever, I would think would be helpful there. Okay, so we've talked about donations. We want to turn to the consignment world. And we've asked Holly to kind of fill 2 roles here because yes, her primary business is estate sale liquidation, but that leads her a lot to working with consignment shops. And, there's a lot of confusion too about consignment. How does that work? So can you just give us a quick overview, knowing it varies place to place, but there are generalities that you could share, Holly?
Sure. Typically, well, to start off, there is a really great consignment center that we work frequently with in Georgetown, and it's Riga of Paris. It's right over there by Mas Fajitas and next to Goodwill. And if you have an item that you want to sell individually, it's a great way to get in contact with them and send in your picture of whatever it is, and then let them determine if it's right for their shop. But what you get is an extended amount of time to be able to have the community coming in to a retail environment looking at your specific items. And then each consignment center breaks down their fee structure a little bit differently on how that works, but it is a really great resource. We use it typically after an estate sale is over. And if an item is still left over that we think the client should still be making some needs extended time, as an estate sale runs only 2 days, 2 to 3 days, the consignment center would give you probably up to 90 days of continued marketing for the viewers to have. So I think it's a great thing to, but again, like with Patricia and Rita, I would get on their website and I would read about what they say and what their terms are. And most of the time, you have to get the item to the consignment shop. So that's just something to consider, because if it's a larger item, you then have to consider the cost of moving it if you can't do it, on your own or with some friends. They don't typically come pick them up from our experience, but each consignment center might do things a little bit different.
They do, at least like from what I have seen in the past, they do have some resources, or hear people who
Yeah.
are accustomed to picking up and bringing to their shop, so they know the routine. But again, knowing it has to be in sellable condition. If it's chipped, cracked, whatever, they're not, that's not the place to take it. Again, our ongoing dilemma with China and Crystal, from what I believe, what I've seen, is they will ask them ahead of time. And, if they can try that, Holly's going to give us some other ideas. But that's always the big item there. So their website does have a lot of the particulars about their contract, and go in and visit. And I know there are other consignment places. In fact, we had invited him to be here today, but they had conflicts. So it is a great resource. Things that don't sell. Say I take my living room furniture there. I mean, they have agreed I can bring it in. I arrange, I take it over there. And I think that it's outlined on their website, but generally, Holly, what is their time frame generally? And can you highlight
Mhm.
how price reductions work?
So kind of generically from our experience, they have a 30, 60, and a 90-day price point. So every 30 days, they're going to drop the price to try and get it to move off of the floor. And after the 90 days, you'll have the option to come back and get the item, or they'll then decide what to do with it. And so it basically becomes their property to decide with. And you gave it your best shot for 90 days, and now they'll consider whether to keep it, or they'll take it, to another resource that it needs to go to.
Okay. I think that gives us a good overview there, because it does tie into all the other areas as well. Let's go ahead and turn to estate sales. And I'm going to give my usual little statement about estate sales. Definitely something we want to consider, but consider realistically. I just feel that we have so often oversold the idea of, I'm going to have an estate sale, I'm going to get rid of everything, and I'm going to make a lot of money. That may happen, but it may not happen. And people have to understand how estate sales really work. Professional estate sales. Let me start off with a very basic question. But Holly, what's the difference in a garage sale and an estate sale?
Well, starting with the terminology, typically a garage sale is held in a garage or on your driveway. And these are for folks who are just looking to get rid of things they've outgrown. Maybe it's been sitting in a closet too long and they're just looking to make a little bit of extra cash. Things can go for quarters to dollars. It's typically very low dollar profiting off of a garage sale. From what we understand, if you sell every item, the average person is sitting around $2,000 worth of stuff just in their garage, but that doesn't mean you want to get rid of everything in your garage. So a garage sale would be of the lower dollar, quick cash for things that you've outgrown. And a
And
state sale,
partly when we say, for those of us who really aren't downsizing and aren't even really taking concrete steps for planning for a move, which is the ultimate with downsizing, but the garage sales can be a great way of decluttering if you want to go through all of the, depends on where you live too, if you can do a garage sale. And with some of us who used to do those garage sales, time to clean out the kids, we've moved on to a new chapter. We're past those toys and past that. But an estate sale, what is an estate sale, Holly?
so an estate sale is going to be there to provide a complete home sale from top to bottom of everything that's in every drawer, in every cabinet, in every closet, in every bedroom, in all the garages and in the attics and outside on your patio, in your yard. It's going to cover the entire contents of a home. And it's also there to provide max profitability and to clear out a large percentage of your items to the community. So we're just, but estate sales have several different levels, and we've set up to kind of accommodate each one of those levels of the profitability options, right? So once you're in an estate sale, it's hopeful that you're making money, but really the more pressing issue is you have an entire house of contents that has to go somewhere. And sometimes like donation centers, like to take a whole house, like that's an extreme amount of work and an extreme amount of inventory that would then just flood onto other outreach resources. And so we come in and we invite the community into the home to purchase everything that's in there first. And then what's left over, that's where we can begin to talk about the other various outreaches of where it's best to benefit so that everybody gets, it's sort of like paying it forward, right? Like everyone has a benefit from it.
Okay. So I'm reaching that point. I'm planning, I'm going to be moving. I know I want to plan for an estate sale. So first question related to this is my kids said they'll come do an estate sale for me. They know it's more than a garage sale. They know it's everything, but my kids can do it. Your response?
I would discourage this, especially how in the recent years, how the estate sale industry has been growing in popularity with people recognizing that there's another way to go do their purchasing. You can come, you'll have a lot of people come to an estate sale and it's more of an event at that point. And so you have crowd control issues, you have theft issues to worry about, you have safety issues to worry about. And when you haven't done an estate sale before, it can be incredibly overwhelming. And to be successful, we really feel like you need to have a pretty firm process to go through it to do that. So if you want to take it on, we encourage families, take on whatever you feel like you want to take on, but most of the time they think that first and then they start moving through the process and then they say, this, we don't know what to do.
And
So
one caveat depends too on the neighborhood in which you live.
that's, yes,
Some
that's what
neighborhoods
yeah.
you cannot do the sales. So, or only people on the preferred list or professionals, however they designate that, because it is different than an estate sale. I mean, a garage sale and just putting out tables of stuff. This table's
Right.
$1. It's, whatever.
Well, and the other small, not small, but like large part of that is you can think that you're capable of doing that until you start, you're also emotionally attached to the situation. And it's not always recommended that the emotional state is what's running the financial state either. Right. So
We're going to get to a question about the cost of items, but first I want to go back. You've mentioned there could be other kind of avenues. It sounds like I I try to encourage people, we're looking at liquidation. Now we need to find the best solution. We've already been talking about some of them here with our donation sites, consignment shops, perhaps an estate sale could be another form. And how do you determine, I don't mean you, well, what makes for a successful estate sale?
We call it quality and quantity. So it's based on how many items that you are looking to get rid of in your home and the condition that they're in, just like Patricia and Rita were talking about. Condition matters. If somebody else isn't willing to buy it, we're also not going to be willing to sell it. Cracked, chipped, broken. And that has a couple of exceptions for certain collectible types of items. But in general, what we're looking for is the quality and the quantity of what's being sold to determine the level of an estate sale also. And if it's going to be trying to determine the goal of getting ready for the house to be sold. And this is one of those avenues, but to do that, for it to be beneficial for everybody involved, we have to make sure that the contents are in the right proportions with quantity and quality.
I think the question about quality, I know it just creates interesting dilemmas with people. As a realtor, and I'm working with people, we're doing this, and well, I know I'm going to have an estate sale. I mean, I've got all this, my china cabinet from 1972 is in perfect condition, and I know it's going to sell for a lot of money, and so on. You get the thrift. What seems like a lot of money to me, and it's in good quality condition to me. What about the shoppers at estate sales? Is that what they're looking for?
Um, what we try and remember is that it's not about one particular item at an estate sale creating your profit. It's about your entire house of contents. And so when you start to add up even ones and twos and fives and tens and 20s and 25s, not and then next to the hundreds of dollars of items, your profitability can raise really quickly. But what we try and focus on, like I had mentioned before, is you've gotten your use out of your china cabinet and your china for the last 15, 20 years, however long. And so now what we're trying to do is present it to the community to let them decide the new way that it needs to be used. We have a lot of people buy china sets for one-time use parties, for weddings, for crafting. It's not a lost category. And what we try to not do is narrow down what will sell versus what won't. We have a general idea when we look, and like some things, but if we build it, what we know is that the community is going to come, because everybody likes to shop thrift and get a good deal and see what other treasures other people have. And so we just encourage them to let the process go the way that it's meant to go. And we let the community show us each time what they're willing to buy. And it is different every time. So we can't guarantee that your china or your china cabinet is going to sell. What we can guarantee is there's going to be a good amount of people coming through to look at it. And they may come in based on the marketing looking at one item and then hadn't noticed that yet. So we just try to keep everybody on the side of let's give it a try, because if we assume ahead of time that it's not going to sell and we get rid of it, I don't think that that's the right way to look at it. We would prefer to give it a good effort through this process that we've created. And then afterwards, we look at what's left over to still be beneficial for all the outreaches in the area.
What about the question of how do you determine the value of items? How do you price items at an estate sale?
So we've been doing this for 13 years now. So a lot of what we know is how we get the pricing, especially in certain areas of town where we are very frequently. We try and keep our price points the same, but it's based on a current market value. And there is a true definition to a current market value. For instance, if you have an item that we look up and we see it selling on eBay for $50, well, that's the market value for eBay. That's not necessarily the market value for an estate sale of 2 days in a neighborhood, but we do take it into consideration to see what other markets are doing. And I hope that makes some sense. We have to make what our goal is to sell every available item in your home, but to maximize that situation. So we're going to start at the top dollar that we think is reasonable for the market of what we know people are willing to pay. And then the process of an estate sale starts to discount until we don't have any more time.
I want to jump in as kind of the third party person here and just looking at different scenarios. We talked about letting stuff, when you send it to donation or whatever, it's gone. I mean, and the same thing if you're having an estate sale, once you said, okay, we're ready, whatever's left in the house, that's yours. Whoever's doing our estate sale, folks, that's theirs. It's when people come back and start taking things or start trying to micromanage. If they go in and say, oh, well, it's worth more than that, I'm just going to take it away. I wanted to sell it for a higher price. If you're hiring a professional, respect a professional. They know what they're doing if they're good professionals, and hopefully you've checked their references, been to sales or whatever, but it's pulling ourselves away. Best just let them do their thing. And I try to avoid conflicts with that.
Can I add just a little bit about some of the particular items that might come up in this type of conversation? There are items that people have that have a monetary value right away. Gold, silver, arms, things like that, that they can be a part of the estate sale, but also the professional estate sale company should be having the right networks to make sure that those items, like I said, maximizing the dollar doesn't always mean it's available to the public for the estate sale. So we can handle all categories in that regard. It just might not be open to the public because for safety reasons, you want to make sure that you're bringing it to the right experts to be able to value it properly if it's beyond our realm.
So the point there I want to stress to people is you're interviewing perhaps different, estate sale companies maybe, but what are we have these special items and hopefully they're reaching out to you. And I see that a lot. If we have the gold, the silver, the firearms, special items, fine art, and again, it's kind of sometimes in the eyes of the beholder, but hopefully you're working with someone who has connections and knows how to handle these special items. I just think that can be very critical. What about collections? I'm thinking of some people I've been working with recently. Oh, I have a large collection of Hummel figurines. And you can go substitute any name in there, any words of wisdom, Holly.
Collectibles are collectible to you and to the next person coming who wants to rehome it. Their value is based, like I said before, on their current market value. And if you know a little bit of history of Hummel, there's a lot of like Goebel that came after Hummel, which is not Hummel. It's just a recreation of Hummel. And our job is to learn and have known sort of from an appraisal standpoint, the knowledge and the history of the item so that we can make sure that we're marketing it properly to those who know what it is. But it's also the place to get the best deal you can. It's sort of the fun part about it. You used to have to pay a significant amount of money for Hummels when they first were coming out in the early 30s, 1930s. And they were being sent back over from the wars that were going on. And now they do still have a lot of that sentimental value. And that is not just your sentimental value, it's sentimental value to your neighbors and your friends who also are collecting them. So does that answer that question in terms of?
It does. Collectibles, it's the eyes of the beholder and hopefully finding the more people who can be, I say we're exposed, but they can be exposed to more people, more chance to finding the people who will share your commitment and love and so on. I want to move on quickly here to, the fees. All kinds of misinformation out there about, again, and I know it's going to vary business to business, but some general guidelines or what should people be aware of in looking at fees associated with estate sales?
Sure. And not speaking just on behalf of our business, but trying to just speak to the industry. Typically, it's a percentage of profits. Some may have some upfront costs in terms of trying to make sure that they can continue to do their business. And I would say that it ranges from 40 to 60% based on your scenario. And
So 40, explain who gets, how that, what
well,
that
it
means.
can go either way. So so it's sort of this shared percentage of how well the sale does versus, you know, the agreement that you have with your estate services on what that means. Um,
So there
I
should be a contract involved
yes,
or an agreement that
outline.
specifies that.
Yes, they it should absolutely be an agreement, and it outlines what you're agreeing to financially, and it should be clear, but it's also, to me, it should be very simple. Um, I think it's important to understand that when you're meeting with the estate sale services and understand their motivation to make your items profitable for you, as opposed to maybe some other ways that they could be profitable. So just really inquiring and understanding that, but it should be broken down very clearly in every contract for the service that you're using.
And I often hear people complain, but it's my stuff. Why? But the estate sale services business, they're doing the work. They're marketing it. They're figuring out the pricing. A lot of work goes into that. So, it's people just need to be aware of that. It's not the time for the owner to micromanage. We've hired a professional to do this work. If we've checked our resources, let them do that. What about stuff that's left over? You've already kind of hinted a little bit about with the consignment and donation. So state sales over and you say, okay, we're through. We've sold what we can sell. Do you just walk out the door and now I'm still left with what's there, or what happens?
So that depends on the service that you choose to work alongside you in this situation. There are some that are equipped to handle the afterwards. And that's where, when we're working alongside like Riga, like the consignment scenario, there are items that maybe didn't find a proper buyer in that flash type of sale versus needing another 3 months to try and sell it. But what we do is work with the client on what their wishes are for those items, and we do our best to accommodate that. We come full service, meaning once you leave, if you don't want to come back and do another thing until the realtor has you sign the paperwork for the new buyer, that's completely okay. We have avenues for everything that doesn't sell. And typically, and if this estate sale is done well and properly, there shouldn't be very much left over for this type of scenario. Um, and so I think that each client, it's different what their wishes are. And then we just have to work together to create the catered process that's going to work best. But no, you don't have to come back to it if you don't want to, but you can. Sometimes family members just want the estate sale done, and then they want to come back through, make sure that there's nothing else that they want to retain or give away to a friend or to a church or wherever they want it to go. What can happen with that, though, is if you're trying to clear a home completely to give it over to a realtor, you still have sometimes a lot of trash left over and a lot of things that just aren't necessarily donatable, but they still have to move, such as things for habit. Well, habitat is donatable, but then all of a sudden it becomes 5 or 6 other trips trying to finish this scenario. And so what we try to provide is that burden-free process of completion to hand it over realtor ready, which means emptying of no contents left in the house.
So that's an important point to clarify. And then also for people to understand. So yes, we've settled it up, we sold, and this is for our agreement. But generally then, okay, we've got to finish getting stuff out. And it costs to have things hauled away. It costs to run to drop stuff at different places. So sometimes people are unrealistic and not very aware of the costs that are associating with that. So we just encourage people to, for some of us, getting rid of the stuff, we've done a lot along the way. Maybe we don't have a lot of stuff. We may have someone come in and clean out. We're not going to get into all that today, but they will take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you may get some money for some of the usable stuff in exchange for, I'm not having to pay you to haul the stuff away.
Right, Virginia, that's what I was gonna backpack on or piggyback on is when we're building profit, we can then have this minimal expense at the end to have the right people come in and clear it if necessary, if there's a cost. There's not always a cost, and we're constantly looking for the proper networking and resources to try and work alongside to keep that as minimal as possible. One other thing I just want to touch on is when you're looking for an estate sale company, I highly recommend that you attend one of their events, because that is going to show you, you can go incognito, you don't have to tell them why you're there, or that you're searching for this process, but you will see really quickly the differences and what you think is going to be a best fit to represent this process for you before you meet with the estate sale companies, right? So because then you can really gauge and understand their level of this sales process.
Good point. Okay, I want to open this back up to see, Patricia, Rita, other things that maybe have come to your mind when we're back to looking at our title, getting rid of your stuff, solutions and strategies. Any closing points of wisdom you have to share with us?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to add to kind of piggyback on Holly. We actually provide a service where if an estate liquidation company has a whole bunch of stuff left over, we can send volunteers to the home, packing material boxes. We provide pickup, delivery, that sort of thing. We'll pack up the things. We'll take as much as we can to the shop, and that'll provide us, and that's a free service. We can also come into a person's house. They don't want to deal with an estate sale, yard sale, whatever. They just want to get rid of stuff. We'll do the same thing and pick up whatever they want to donate, whatever we can take, again, free of charge. We'll provide the materials, the transportation.
So that is a kind of a form of clean out then that you
Sort of.
So yeah, it's clean out in that you're taking what you can use. You're not
Correct.
emptying the house, but
Right.
we're reducing the amount of stuff in there, and it's going to a good cause. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Glad you shared and clarified that.
And I
Okay,
think that will work well with estate liquidation companies, and that to help decrease their cost when they're dealing with that sort of situation.
Yes, and to go a little bit back to some of the things that we think are most important on that note, time is really important to be managing the expectations of the time it's going to take to hand the house back over to the realtor. There's a lot of folks that after you do the estate sale, it's like snap your fingers and the house is on the market. Well, just ending the estate sale process is only one phase of the situation. Then you move into the phase of how do we deal with what's left? Well, if, for instance, if Rita is 5 days out from having a truck come, we're 5 days out. So we just have to wait for that process to continue. So these are all things to just be considering as you're going through the process of your timeline and trying not to over expect it to go quicker than it can if you want us to work alongside and use these various resources, which we love to do. But sometimes folks are kind of more intent on let's get it on the market and get it sold, right? And so working alongside the realtors, especially Virginia, how great it is to be able to all of us collaborate to be your team, to be able to help walk through this process smoothly and burden free, and to help the entire community.
I know a challenge has been from Holly's mentioned if some of us work ahead to say, okay, we're going to have this situation coming up, and so meet with these people. This is what's going to be the best solution for getting everything out of the house, and bringing in other resources as well. There are other situations where people, I know this has happened, will call you and say, okay, well, our house is under contract. I have to be out in 3 weeks, and I need you to do an estate sale. Maybe, maybe not. I mean,
Yeah, maybe not. Sometimes all of that can flow very well. One of the biggest things I've learned being in this industry is flexibility. Things change and people's timelines change, and move dates don't stay the same. When we had openings of the Hacienda and the Oscar, it was sort of like chaos for people's timelines. And I just think we all just need to be aware that we all can want something, but then the reality doesn't always match up with that. So I would suggest that as soon as you know that you're going to want to put your house on the market, if it's your whole house of stuff, you should consider having an estate sale service come talk to you at the exact same time with a realtor, right in the same timeline, so everyone can help manage those expectations of how long it's realistically going to take.
The team effort it can just really simplify things. And so along those lines, I wanted to highlight for those of you who have the handouts, we have a handout, getting rid of your stuff, solutions and strategies. We all have different ways of going about this. Gift and return items to the rightful owner. Some of us still have stuff that are our kids. Well, maybe it's time to pass on those letter jackets or whatever. Let them figure out what to do with it. We talk about liquidation, selling. Some people say, well, I want to sell this stuff myself. Some people can do that. I had a client a few years ago. She did a great job. She was very capable to put it on Marketplace or whatever and had the time. For some people, that works. Some of the stuff, trash and recycling, oh my goodness, then we get into hazardous waste. Not a topic for today, but a topic have to people be aware of. Donate, let your items go on for respectful rehoming, be used maybe for different purposes. And what's really important for you to keep, what represents you that will fit into your new space. Well, I hope that anything else from our panelists. So I encourage our people viewing our video to check out these resources. For those of you who are looking at downsizing, want to learn more about the Downsizing Club, reach out, let me know. It's a support group. Real quick, in our December meeting, it was great. We had people reflect on their year and what they had done in terms of downsizing. We had the most amazing stories shared. Some people are like, okay, someone had a lot of designer bags. She was sharing the resource she had found, works for some, not for all, that she had inquired and had sent some of her designer bags to. We just had a lot of people sharing. And, some of us, the sharing was, at least by coming to this group, I knew I had to do my goal. We're big on goal setting. Brielle's great on facilitating that, about cleaning out my closet, or I did 30-minute times, and these are what I did. But anyway, for those of you who want that kind of accountability and nudge in the downsizing, let us know and find out more about the Downsizing Club. It meets the first Thursday of each month at 10 o'clock. So I think we've covered this. Again, I apologize we weren't able to be live, but when decisions need to be made for the safety of all involved, it seemed this was the best way to get the information out. But go check out the Assistance League, go check out the Caring Place, check out estate sales, and we look forward. Hopefully you will be joining us live in February for the Safeguarding Your Future, Legal Planning for Peace of Mind. So that will be our February topic. And again, thank you for attending, and thank our panelists for taking time to be with us. And have a happy new year.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye. Thank
Hi, thank you.
you. Have a good day.